Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Picture Your Dream Here podcast. My name is Jacob Hemenway, and I'm so excited to be your host. I've written an album and released it this year, Picture Your Dream Here. It's an instrumental guitar album available on all streaming platforms, and it's meant to inspire people to take some time, listen to the music, and picture your dreams. Big dreams, small dreams, everything in between. I've also come out with some journals, Picture Your Dream Here journals, and they're meant to be a place where you can actually write everything down. I think we all have dreams, but we don't always take the time to sit down and write it down, so I wanted to create something so that people have an opportunity to slow down and really think about all the dreams that they have in life and get them all written down. So head on over to jacobhemenway.com to check out journals. I've got t-shirts, and then you can stream Picture Your Dream Here anywhere online. Thanks so much for tuning in. This week, our first week, we have Dan Smotz is going to be our guest, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation with you that I had with Dan. Dan and I go ways back. We played in bands together, and he's a really super creative, fun guy, and he's done a lot already. He's doing a lot currently, and I think that he has some really great insight and ideas for dreaming big, what that's meant in his life. And at the end of our interview together, I went ahead and asked him to share some different places that you can connect with him for some of the video production that he's doing, a lot of weddings he's currently doing. He's even done some cover art recently for a song that I just released called Jealous. Super creative, talented guy. And he also runs a podcast himself he's been doing for quite some time called The System Is Down. So go ahead and give a listen. And again, I'm just really excited to share this conversation with you. Okay, we have Dan Smotz, our first guest here on the Picture Your Dream Here podcast. Welcome, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Jacob. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thank you for having me.
You've always been so supportive right from the start.
I've been listening to your show since the very beginning, man. I tuned into that first episode, and that guest was amazing, so I just kept coming back for more.
That's so cool.
If you don't put me first, I'm going to be very disappointed at this point, after I made that joke.
Yeah, so I actually had someone scheduled before you, so I'm going to post their content before you. Is that okay?
No.
All right, fair. You'll be the first guest then, and we'll really hype it up. Dan, you've done a lot already in life, and you're currently doing a lot. The whole point of this podcast is to open up conversations for people to feel a free license to dream big about things that are really important, things that are, might seem kind of small or might seem big to us. I feel like you've always been a dreamer, but more than that, you've done a lot with music and production and video work and live performance, and now you're doing some guest speaking and all that. So you just kind of want to share what you've been up to lately?
Lately, or all the things that you just mentioned? There is a lot.
We'll start with what you're doing right now, and then maybe we can go back.
Yeah, right now I'm doing my podcast, The System Is Down, where we talk about political stuff and conspiracy stuff and religious, spiritual stuff, and just a lot of the topics that, have been deemed, I guess, uncomfortable, and just having open dialogue about stuff that most people find uncomfortable, because I don't find much uncomfortable. So I do that, and that got me into a lot of political stuff. So I do political ads, and I do wedding videos, and I do music, and I'm in bands, and do design, and all sorts of things. So this conversation go wherever you'd like it to go, because there's a lot of different things, and I'm not sure how deep you're wanting to go.
We can go as deep as you want. I think one thing that I've found in life, and I've seen time and time again with people that are like myself, that want to do a lot of different things, but are not very, not always on top of having like a strategy for every last, like, oh, I'm going to do some pencil drawing. I'm going to,
I have no strategy. I'm literally just every single day. It's like imposter syndrome. Like I'm just making this stuff up as I go. But so far, it seems to work in some ways. So
do you enjoy that though?
Kind of. I'm getting to a point in my life where I'm like, yeah, I need to work on a little bit of structure and focus on certain things because I do have like my hands in so many different areas because I get creative ideas and I'm like, I'll start a thing and then I'll start another thing and start another thing. I'm really bad at finishing things, but I get really hyped up about a lot. And currently I have a lot of things that are ongoing, and I need to not necessarily stop any of them, but maybe focus on which ones are, actually bringing in the revenue sometimes. And there's been, certain passions that I would like to dedicate more time to, but you get old and money has to come from somewhere. And so far, like I'm certainly blessed to be able to use my passion to make a living. And so even like the things that I'm less passionate about that make money, I'm extremely grateful that I get to work for myself and, do something that helps other people and pays for my children to eat.
Yeah. Have you found with looking at the revenue side, like the business side of things, has that affected kind of I'm just thinking of a bunch of different ways it could be reflected even musically, since in the past you've recorded a lot of bands, you've had a lot of people coming in and out, you've done producing, the dollars, when I was younger I used to think like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to sacrifice the art for the sake of like so I can get a paycheck or something. And now I'm like, I have a family.
I'll sacrifice everything. Just give me money.
How much does the effectiveness or like the ability to make money off something affect what you're going to spend time on, or when you call something good enough with art?
Yeah, it's tough. And I've worked with a lot of bands. Like for me, the band thing never made a whole bunch of money. And I don't know if this thing that I'm going to say made it into the cut before we lost audio here. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. But the band thing never made much money. But like cover bands do. And like it's interesting because what I do now primarily for income is the wedding video stuff. And I never set out to do wedding video. I didn't want to do wedding video. I avoided it like the plague, but I really liked doing video. And it wasn't until I realized, A, how much fun and creativity I can put into wedding videos, and B, how freaking much money wedding videos can bring in compared to like, because I was trying to do music videos and that type of thing. Bands don't have money, and expecting them to,
right.
Trying to make a living off of somebody else's art is like trying to, like squeezing blood from a turnip, because they're trying to make money from their thing and you're trying to get them to pay you so that you can make money from their thing. So I still enjoy doing like the creative stuff more. And even with like the political ads, I do like weird libertarian, like trolling ads. So even that is like more leaning into my creative side, but finding ways to still make it creative and make it valuable to somebody else is the key. Because you can do your thing all day long and expect other people to pay for it, but if it's not bringing them value, then it doesn't matter. And a lot of the bands that I worked with had this dilemma where they were like, I need to make a living as a rock star. And I'm like, I get that. I was there. I wanted to do that too. But at some point, if you're wanting to make money, you gotta, I don't know, maybe take a pride cut and do a cover band that makes, more money because it's bringing more value to other people with songs that they know and can dance to and relate to. So for me, like finding that middle ground where you can do something that sustains your creative outlet, like expression, still doing the hobby stuff on the side. That's the stuff that you're more passionate about, not expecting that to make money. And if you're not expecting that to make money, it's going to turn out better than if you're trying to make money off the passion anyway. So finding ways to be creative and also bringing direct value to people that, they want to pay for. And people don't want to pay for your original songs necessarily. They want to pay to hear you sing an AC/DC cover sometimes. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm even looking at people who are like, making it, like, wow, they're playing a ton, and they're obviously like they're doing this for their living, but then you look at like how many people are involved in the process of like, say, touring, or all the time and the money that's going to go into other people being involved in something, and realizing like there are so many things that I'm wondering like you have to compromise on, or kind of like, well, I'm not, so like for me with music right now, I would love to make money off of songs that I'm releasing, but it seems like the songs that I'm releasing are more of an advertisement as to like who I am. So, I'm telling a lot of people like, go and stream it, go listen to it immediately, and not this like, I, am an artist and I deserve to be respected for my time. I think like, merchandise has something to do with it too, like finding ways to make things stick.
Right. But even for me, like my podcast makes very little money, and I just do it once a week. It's easy, it's fun, I enjoy doing it. But it's more so it makes a little bit of income, but it more so promotes doing the political ads and stuff like that. Like it keeps my name in some of these circles and spheres and stuff, and affords me the ability to go out. I was flown out to Florida a couple weeks ago, and North Carolina a couple weeks before that, and doing these trips and stuff has been great. Those are all directly a result of the podcast only. And if I set out to if I was just jumped into the market and said, I'm here to do political ads, then I wouldn't be doing the fun political ads that I'm doing now. But I started doing weird stuff, and then people are like, I want some weird stuff on my campaign. So now, because I put that foot forward and did the free stuff from the jump that let people know, what I am, and the podcast letting them know that I do like things a little bit more comedically and have a different style, that helps keep putting the name out there and gets me the jobs that I don't know how I could have possibly found if it wasn't for the podcast. So seeing the value that, even your hobbies can bring to other income streams, I think is important too.
Yeah. And with dreaming, one thing that I've found, there's things that I'm doing now that I dreamed about doing years ago. I'm playing a bunch of gigs and releasing some material. But I think one thing that for me, and this is just where I'm at, I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. There's so many things where like, oh, I want to record videos of me doing cover tunes and release them on YouTube or whatever. I feel like I thought about doing that 10 years ago, and I've seen so many of my friends do it, and their production level has just kind of like risen and risen and risen over the years. And so
now jumping in, you're like, starting at ground base.
But then that's where I've found myself is, like maybe I have one fixed camera position, but that's literally where I am because I chose not to do it all these years, instead of like, oh, if I'm going to compete, I got to, start at the same production level as someone else. And I think that there's obviously the higher production value you can do, the more shiny and catchy it's going to be or whatever. But I've been finding that these things that I've been dreaming about doing, it's not like, okay, now I'm going to start doing it. And, it's not every case where it's like, I'm 10 years more advanced as far as like my, the knowledge side of things. So I'm going to jump in. It's going to be great. Now it's like, oh, if I would have started doing this 10 years ago, that would have snowballed into X, Y, and Z. Sure. Not like a regret thing. Well,
I think something you said compete, and I think, I don't know, if I've learned anything, it's don't compete with anybody but yourself. Like, there's nobody doing the weird things that I'm doing, and like if I had been focusing on how I can be as good as this person or that person in making ads or making weddings and stuff, I wouldn't have the unique me factor to the things that I do. So I don't know, like I'll watch other people's wedding videos and see like, what they're doing, get some ideas and stuff. But I think it's important to do your best and compete with yourself to do your best, but like have goals. But I don't know. We live in a culture where there's a lot of, especially with social media, there's a lot of comparing, deciding that person is successful because their stuff looks like this or whatever. And I am guilty of this as well, but like you compare so much and you feel like you're not doing it the right way. So since you're not doing it the right way, you just end up not doing it at all. And for me, it's like putting yourself out there and just doing the thing that you feel is right seems to like you have to start somewhere. And I am really bad at obsessing about things, and it took me years and years before I got to the point where I'm like, it's good enough, put it out, be done with it, stop obsessing, and stop comparing to other people. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and you already shared a little bit about this, but thinking about dreaming, like when you were a teenager or whatever, you dreamed about doing X, Y, and Z with music or production or videos or whatever. How has like putting action towards dreaming about something, even though like you were saying, it's kind of a lot of things have turned into something that you didn't ever anticipate doing. Have you found like just kind of going with your gut with a lot of things has like gotten you to where you are,
Entirely. Yes. Like I feel like I'm just flying by the seat of my pants 90% of the time. Just like I have an idea that everybody else, like if I tried explaining this idea to anybody, it would sound crazy. Now I'm going to do it and I'm just going to show them and they're going to realize like, I don't know, lots of weird things that for me, like the most fun I can have as an artist or a creative individual is just making something weird and unique that speaks to people or moves people or something like that. But it's not something that you can even quantify or say, like when I tell people I do political ads, they think, buttoned up guy standing in front of a cornfield going, you should vote for me because no, it's more like a guy like screaming at the system and yelling about how wrong all the other politicians are. I don't know. I can't even explain it right now. You just got to go watch the freaking ads. But yeah, like I love it. I love doing it. And I never set out to do weddings. I never set out to do political ads. And now I enjoy doing both because I found a niche way to do them that I can put my weird self into, and people seem to like it. But yeah, there was no plan. It's just been putting myself out there and pushing myself to do better and go with the gut. Yes. Go with the gut and I don't know, like just trusting yourself, even if it feels wrong. Like if you try something and it doesn't work, stop going with the gut and try something else. But, test the waters and do crazy things sometimes with art, especially if you're not making money currently, maybe try something different, try something weird, maybe go more you, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Does that affect, so like now you're where you are and, like if you were writing things down or thinking about the future, like 10 years from now, like, oh my gosh, it'd be great if I was doing this or that. Has that affected the way that you kind of like look forward based off of like, well, I just started doing things and it turned into this. And so I'm just going to keep doing things and it'll probably turn into this? Or do you not dream as much in the future? Or do you have even like, no, I can actually dream bigger because I'm actually just like trying things and then pivoting and moving?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like content or complacent or I'm not complacent. I am content. Like I am happy to keep flying by the seat of my pants as long as it affords me the ability to do weird things that pay the bills. Like I can make a 5-year plan, but I've had a lot of people ask me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, well, 5 years ago, I certainly didn't see myself where I am right now. And like, not even a little bit. So I don't know, like, I'm going to keep doing the weird thing and keep expanding and testing the water, seeing what works and what I'm having the most fun doing. But yeah. And at the end of the day, like my wedding video stuff is pretty constant. Like if I kept doing that the way I'm doing it, it will like, I have a fallback plan. Even if the crazy adventures don't work out, the weddings are pretty stable as far as that goes. So, yeah, pushing myself to be better there, certainly. But if I kept doing it the way I'm doing it, that would be fine. That is my my base job.
Yeah. Do you think like trying for some specific thing? See, for myself, sometimes I'm like, I get all worked up because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to think about it. I'm going to write it down. I'm finally going to make a plan and strategize and do it. And then like it doesn't turn out like I thought it was going to. And if I think about it like, oh, I failed at making it turn out how I thought it was in my head, I'll feel crushed. Mm-hmm. Whereas like making actions to move forward, but then like pivoting or like, you know, recognizing like this is working for now based off of what, you know, I kind of like had in my gut. It gets me to move forward. But sometimes like I'll feel stuck if it's like that one specific thing that I really thought was like supposed to work out didn't. That it can feel crushing, but I think that having no idea or no like passion or desire and like I guess we'll just see where we are, that doesn't work either.
Right. I'm not entirely sure I understand the question.
There wasn't one.
Okay. Yeah, like I don't know. The wedding stuff is like again was never a dream, but I appreciate very much that I get to do like it's enough. If I lived out the rest of my life and got to make wedding videos for the rest of my life and have fun with that, then that's enough. And everything else is icing on the cake. Like all the other stuff, whether I make money off of it or not, whether it works or not, I'm going to keep like putting myself out there and making the weird ideas that I come up with. And it's just for play at that point. And money sometimes comes out of it and money sometimes doesn't. And either way, it's fine because it's stuff that I would enjoy. It's stuff that if I wasn't getting paid to do it, I would still enjoy doing it. And I think that's important for art is just make what you want to make and, you know, find the value to bring to other people, maybe in other ways. But I don't know. I'm rambling.
I was trying to hold this in.
That's all right. Take your time.
Yeah. So good. Is there anywhere specifically that you've like, because in the journals I've kind of included some questions for people to just have conversation starters for themselves. I guess, you know, two things. Like, is there anywhere specifically that you've like in the past dreamt of going and like that'll never happen, and then it's worked out? And is there anywhere else like? Do you dream about going and visiting specific places, or is it just kind of like, whatever happens, happens?
Kind of whatever happens, happens. I'm not much of a traveler, and even with the trips that I'm on, I'm like, oh, this is great, and I can't wait to get back home.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I mean, there's been things that I didn't expect to work out that did, like when I was doing the studio production stuff, working for that company, doing audio. At that point, I told my boss, like I was like trying to come up with new ways to bring in revenue because we were making money off of bands, which, as I previously mentioned, there isn't any. And I had the idea of, you know, getting some camera gear and shooting music videos, which at the time I had no idea. That I had done music videos for like my band and stuff, but I had no idea how to do it well, or like what gear to use or whatever. In hindsight, it probably wouldn't have been a great idea. But my boss at the time was like, no, I don't think there's enough money in that. And then I did. So I worked for them a couple years after that. I didn't stop working for them because of that. But a couple years later, I quit there and then moved back to Illinois and did some normie jobs for a while, but started doing the video stuff and got some gear. And so I was told that video wouldn't work out. And then I started doing it and made it work out. And now I rub it in his face sometimes. But he was right at the time. It would have been a bad idea. But also, even for like graphic design stuff, I went to local community college for that. I taught myself Photoshop in high school, and then I went to college, took a Photoshop course, and learned absolutely nothing and got a 100% on every single assignment. And so like it was a beginner's course basically, and I had already learned all the stuff. But I asked the professor there, I was like a young kid, had no idea what I was going to do. I was like, I like making art on a computer. That's fun for me. So how do I do that? Like, how do I, make band art for people and make money off of it? That was my goal. Make cover designs and stuff. Art that represents somebody else's art. So passion for passion. And he basically told me, well, you'll have to, probably do 4 to 6 years, and then when you, whatever, get your degree, go on to like a firm and then start out at the bottom doing like cereal boxes and like the nutrition instructions on the boxes and stuff. And I'm like, well, that sounds awful. And so I just started doing cover art for bands. And then I eventually, like, I don't do that regularly, but I've done.
You did
quite
recently
a few.
for me, which was great for Jealous.
I did. The design stuff is kind of like a second thing, but it was like my first passion, and to be able to do stuff like cover design and that type of thing, I enjoy a lot. But yeah, like it's important to know that, like, take advice from people who know more than you, obviously. But if just because somebody who is like an authority figure in your life says this isn't going to work, doesn't necessarily mean it's not. It doesn't mean it is going to work. Like, I didn't make a career off of doing the thing that I had in mind there, but I still do it and enjoy doing it. And I definitely didn't need to go through 6 years of college, get a degree, and start making cereal boxes. I just started doing it instead. And so, yeah, maybe the rebellious nature comes in handy in those types of situations, because I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to do it anyway. And I think more people do need to do that, instead of expecting that somebody else has it all figured out. The dream that you have, they know what you like, even what you have in mind, let alone being able to tell you the right ways to go about it. So take advice, but don't take all advice.
Sure.
Discernment.
Yeah, that's another I think huge one with dreaming, is like, sometimes dreaming with other people really like catapults us into things in the future, because like, oh, we can, especially I think musicians really love to like bounce ideas off, and what if we did this and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've had a lot of experiences where I've wanted to dream big, and sometimes it's hard to know where to place everything. Like, I really confide in this person. I think they have a lot of really good ideas, and like, oh, they don't think this is a good idea. Well, maybe I shouldn't spend any time on it. And then sometimes you prove people wrong, like you're saying, like, oh gosh, right. Like, and then they're totally on board, but you had to make that jump anyways and try something, even though, and I think sometimes it's hard to figure out who to dream with. But what's been some of your experiences with some other experiences with like the importance of like dreaming with other people, or like even if someone doesn't see it the way that you see it, still going for it anyways? Like, what's been helpful or hurtful in that?
Well, hurtful is pretty much anytime there's a committee involved. If they call themselves a committee, then run when it comes to art, because there's a lot of opinions in a committee, and they will committee your art to death. I mean, I've done it for paychecks, but for me, like, if it's committee work, it is work. I'm still thankful that I get to do it, but I know that it's not going to be something that I'm even happy with in the end, but I will be happy with the check. Now with groups, I feel like the smaller the group, typically the better. I've worked on a lot of campaigns and stuff, and the campaigns that I've worked on, when it's like 3 or 4 guys coming up with ideas together who are kind of on the same wavelength, that works great. Especially if they know what I do and respect what I do, and give me the freedom to just play around with things. Because like in video, like when we're out shooting a video in the field, and like we're just making things up on the fly, and then I come back, I know what I'm looking for, kind of. Not even entirely, but I know the elements that I'm looking for, and I know when we have enough. And then it's like 3 hours of footage that I edit down to like a 2-minute ad. So like, there's no way there's certain artistic like endeavors where I think what you're talking about more is like working collaboratively with musicians and stuff. That's a completely different thing because that's like people who are doing their part in a thing and all have kind of the same goal. With like making art for other people, even if they're involved in the process, it becomes difficult to like convey your vision to them, like I said earlier, until you actually show them the thing. Like, I have this, and I don't know how to tell you, but I know what it's going to look like. And at the end of the day, they're happy. As long as they're happy at the end of the day, it's all good. But yeah, I don't remember what your question was.
We're just starting conversations because, I mean, there's so many different areas to involve people, right? There's like if you have a boss or you have a crew of people, if you're doing something, you're working side by side with people, you have people working underneath you. I think for me too, well, I think being in a relationship affects the way you can dream. And I think that it can be hard to either feel free to have a license to dream big sometimes if we're worried about like, well, I don't know what so-and-so is going to think, or if we're going to be on the same page. And I think sometimes it can be easier with something to, and I'm sure even in like what you're talking about, passion for passion, to get something done right, it is one thing. And I'm sure there's been plenty of times when you've had to just kind of, either with you're producing a band or you're making a cover photo for someone. I think that you have had to deal with a lot of like, I'm just going to, stop sharing my ideas and just kind of do what they're wanting. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes have you found like, oh, there seems like there's like a huge breakthrough coming from actually like, no, I'm really going to stick to like, I really think that this is how we should take things. Like, where have you found the most fulfillment in all that?
There's been music projects. Even in the band that I'm currently in, there's songs that we've written in the past where I'm they're writing stuff and then I'm writing to whatever they wrote. Over time, I've gotten to the point where now I'll have a vocal idea and I will lay that down, and then I'll lay down a guitar vocal line, like just singing the guitar with my mouth, just to be like, this is what I'm looking for. And I hear it and it's perfect. Now we got like the stuff that we're working on for the future currently is going more in that direction, which has been interesting because I've never, with that band, I've never been really the one to start the song, to start the creation of the song. So that's taken kind of a different path. With some of the video stuff, I had a point, now it's gone because I forgot what the question was again.
Compromising their dream, your dream, really sticking with your idea, or like compromising to theirs.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to put your foot down. Even in like committee work, you do have to put your foot down. You have to figure out where that line is, what kind of risk you're willing to take. Like, are they going to be upset if I push back? But if they hired you to do a thing, if they hired you to be the guy who makes the video or writes the song or does whatever, then they hired you. So you do have to find that point where you're like, do you want me or do you just want some canned thing? Like, obviously be polite and professional about it. This is a podcast that I'm saying this, but like at some point you have to, not like, they don't necessarily know what they want. If it's hired work, they don't know what they want. They know that they want you and they think they know what they want, but they have no idea because they hired you for your unique thing. So at some point you do have to put your foot down and say, I think, you hired me to do this. So I feel really strongly that we should go in this direction. If you believe it, stick by your guns, at least give a little bit of pushback, and you'll thank yourself later.
Yeah. For future projects, or working with that same person, or deciding like, I was really honest with how I felt about it, and that was not a good fit at all. And then you kind of save yourself some stress maybe for... Maybe you want to go with someone else in the future.
Right. Yeah. And if they're like a client that would be ongoing for projects in the future, if they're difficult to work with and don't want your vision from the get-go, you have to decide, is this like even something? Yes, there's money there, but is it something that's going to be fulfilling more than just a paycheck? And I mean, weighing if that's worth it to you is one thing. I've certainly been in those positions early on where it's like, I will take any money that I can get for anything that is creative, so I will do it. And in those times, it was a lot harder to put the foot down because I was afraid of losing the job or whatever. But now, once you get to a certain level where you are the authority figure in the room that is there to say, here's what I can do for you, you got to eventually cross that hump where you're able to say, here's why you hired me, and here's why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, can you just take a few minutes and share? I don't know if you need a few minutes, but because I know you do a lot of things, so you're currently doing a few things, just to share how to get connected with you, to be a part of what you're doing, and to connect with all the things you're working on.
Yes. I have a bunch of different hats, and I kind of keep them separated too. So like if you're into the spicy stuff, the political stuff, the kind of offensive stuff, you can follow me at thesystemisdown.tv is the website, or at TSIDpod on Twitter is the place for that. Then I have the video stuff that is wedding stuff that I keep entirely separated from anything political. And it's all happy and it'll make you cry and stuff. You can follow that at goulashfilms.com. I think, we've got an Instagram and stuff. I don't use social media as much for that. I really should, but it's not as fun, so I don't. But, and on Facebook and stuff for that one. And the band stuff, the Dawn Retreat, at the Dawn Retreat on Twitter, or thedawnretreat.com. Got all that, and Smotz stuff. I do some rap solo side stuff, and whatever comes up in that project as well. Lots of things, and I think I might have a website that has all those things on it. It might be dansmotz.com. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like I set it up once, but there's a lot of different things. So good luck.
That's awesome. Any parting thoughts?
I mean, this is a much shorter interview than I'm accustomed to, so I've got lots of thoughts. But no, I like parting thoughts. As far as what we've talked about, if I can leave you with anything of importance, and this is what a lot of my speeches when I do public speaking, because I'm apparently a public speaker now, which I just happened upon and just went with the opportunity. But one of the main things I talk about is pursuing passion and changing the world through it, because I do think that the world, I feel like there is a fabric of humanity that we're all a part of, and if we were all our fullest selves and pursuing the passion that we were created to fulfill, then the world would be an infinitely better place. But most of us are going to work 9 to 5 and then coming home, drinking a beer, kicking the kids around. That is the status quo. Not everybody can necessarily, make money off their passion, but don't let the passion die, because if you have something to pass down to your kids, sure, money's great, but they're not going to care about that as much as they will seeing you live out your fullest life. And that will put more into their future than paying for them to go to college to be told that in 6 years they can start at a cereal box company. Showing your kids that that when they were born, your passion did not die with their birth. Yes, you have had to reassign things in your life and rearrange your priorities, and they come first. But part of being a good parent, I think, is being your fullest self and showing as an example to them what it means to I don't know, do what you were created to do what you're passionate for.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks so much for your time. And
thanks for
go check out those links that he shared, and looking forward to some of the stuff you got coming up. And I'm sure that I'll be knocking on your door here to make some more cover art for some of my projects.
You know where I
well.
live. You know where I live.
I do.
Let's do something.
Sounds good. All right.
Cool, man.
Thanks. Talk
so
soon.
Much. See ya.
Bye. Thanks again for tuning in to this podcast. Feel free to connect with me on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Jacob Hemenway Music. Also, you can check out jacobhemenway.com. It'll take you to my merchandise site. I'd love for you to go check that out and get a journal. Maybe get two. You can buy one for $18. You can actually buy two for $30. Why don't you go ahead and get another journal and get one for a friend or a loved one so you can dream together. Have a great day.